So let me start with zooming in on the core MFF text. As you know, in line with the treaty, the MFF regulation sets out the ceilings for commitment and payment appropriation. The MFF also contains provisions on special instruments mobilized over and above those ceilings to make the annual budgetary procedure smooth. As you know, we are proposing a long-term budget covering 7 years, but this duration is counterbalanced by a number of flexibilities to enable the Union to adapt to evolving priorities and to respond swiftly to crises. A novelty that we propose to introduce is an adjustable deflator. If inflation is forecast to be lower than 1% or higher than 3%, then the deflator will be equal to the forecast inflation. In other cases, it will be set at the level of 2%, as is the case right now. This is one of the lessons that we have to draw from the period of high inflation when the deflator was at the level of 2%. So we believe that with this mechanism, we will preserve the purchasing power of the budget during periods of high inflation. Then let me also say a few words about special instruments. Special instruments that are there to allow additional expenditure over and above the MFF ceilings. The first special instrument is a new one, is the Ukraine reserve of 100 billion euro. It will be channeled through the Global Europe, so part of the MFF. It may be used as for non-repayable support or provisioning of budgetary guarantees. The details for this Ukraine reserve are regulated in Article 6. In Article 7, we have the single margin instrument. We will continue to allow reshuffling and reuse of past budgetary margins from the different headings. We propose to abandon capping of those amounts, which is the case in the current MFF regulation. The instrument may also use future margins as a last resort. It's an important tool to increase the flexibility of the EU budget. And then in Article 8 comes the flexibility instrument. We propose that it is increased in size to 2 billion euros per year and reinforced by decommitted amounts and amounts equivalent to fines imposed by Union institutions. When it comes to the fines imposed by Union institutions, today they are capped at the level of 11 billion euro. We propose to scrap this cap. And also when it comes to decommitments, it's actually the novelty, because now reuse of decommitments is an exception in the URI line and also in Horizon. When it comes to those special instruments, it will remain for the Parliament and the Council to decide on the mobilization of those special instruments on equal footing. Let me also highlight Article 11 on a revision of the MFF in relation to the accession of new member states to the Union. This is not a new provision, this provision of Article 11. But I wanted to draw your attention to this one because it might gain increased importance during the next MFF. And then, as per usual practice, the MFF proposal is accompanied by the annex setting out the amounts for the 2028-2024 period per category of expenditure. You know that we have already presented that as part of the political presentation, that the MFF amounts, we propose that they equal to 2 trillion euro in current prices to finance common priorities and allow for repayment of NGEU borrowing. This corresponds to 1.26 of the EU GNI on average. The MFF proposal, we also had an opportunity to discuss about it, is structured around 4 headings as compared to current 7 headings, plus 1 subheading and 2 sub-ceilings. This will increase the coherence and the flexibility of the EU budget. And now shortly on the interinstitutional agreement on budgetary matters. In line with previous practice, it enshrines the arrangements for a smooth institutional cooperation in the budgetary procedure. It also contains provisions on financial programming, and it operationalizes the use of special instruments. Let me highlight in particular 3 novel elements of interinstitutional agreement. The incorporation into the IIA of the text of the joint declaration on institutional cooperation and budgetary scrutiny of new proposals based on Article 122. This is reflected in points 15 and 16 of interinstitutional agreement. The increased flexibility for the budgetary authority to deviate from the indicative envelopes. We propose to increase from 15% in the current IIA to 20% in the future. That is reflected in point 10 of the IIA. The reference to discussions in the budget trilogue on funding priorities for the budget. This is reflected in point 2 of the annex. This is, I would say, the important component of the new steering mechanism. You are engaged into the annual budget procedure. What we propose is that the first budgetary trilogue takes place actually before the publication of the annual draft by the Commission. Why is that? Because we would like the Parliament and the Council to have a say also on the priorities that the Commission should then reflect in the annual budget proposal. And those discussions will be based on the Union's policy priorities identified through this new steering mechanism. And as I said, the European Parliament should play a key role in this mechanism alongside the Council. I look forward also at this point to also hearing to your views and your questions. Thank you.